to see what is it about um, the challenges that a more thoughtful people can do to overcome them, a feeling which the reality of the fact that everybody had a right, should have a right to say, and it's a nice thing to hear finally that Baba Kingibe is saying, look, everything should be negotiable. I used to be very upset and really, really upset when people say Nigeria's unity is non-negotiable. That's absolute nonsense. It was negotiated. It can be negotiated anytime. It should be negotiated anytime. So Kingibe's comments, I think, helps situate things away from the class of 66. I mean, this for first sense about how Nigeria is non-negotiable is one of the things that come out of those I call the class of 66, the young officers who took over the country in 66 generally and exercised state capture over a long period of time and see Nigeria as their personal portfolio. And, and for them, what defines them is there's no way you that we. Uh, now, I think that's a bit of nonsense. However, there is a bit of in thinking that if you can engineer culture and build a greater, as I've said, without apologies, I'd like to see a United States of West Africa, if you will, where just looking at how well people are organizing themselves in Nigeria, Benin will opt to be a part of that union, and then Togo, and then so on and so forth. Uh, but it's not the ultimate wisdom. All possibilities should be on the table. However, I think that the more effort we can make to think through the options, including really sitting down and talking about why there's a problem with this union, it can help us find a way that will make it work. Thank you. So let me yield here.
All right, thank you very much, Prof, for that very insightful submission. Thanks for that. So we'll move on to Captain G. Guys, if you're on stage and you'd like to respond to Prof or respond to the general room topic, please flash your mic. So I know there's Njenje and there's Olami. Okay, that's fine. So we'll go back to Captain G, then Njenje, then Olami. Captain G, are you there?
Yeah. Sorry for the last time I had a glitch on my clubhouse app. I don't know, I couldn't mute my mic. So I will spend less than 2 minutes in fact just to speak on the topic of the room. Buhari paid 50,000 to bandits to buy anti-aircraft weapon. It's kind of a bit funny because I know many of us are still going to just like the clubhouse vocabulary, intellectual dishonesty and disingenuous. People are still going to doubt the fact that our president, I won't say our president, because I won't just say this president, this government is a total failure, in fact. That's been total failure since immediately they got to power. From the first day, bam, they just can't power like this. They became a total failure. And why am I saying this? We've seen many instances where a particular person has come out to say, oh, these bandit guys, they don't really want something, it's not as if they want trouble. They're just, suffering. They want money, they want this, they want that. And this same person is working, going to different media. He has not been called to questioning. How did you know this bandit guy? How do you know their location? But rather, we keep seeing someone like the governor of Katsina State posting pictures with these bandit guys holding guns. We've seen someone like the person I just mentioned going to media saying, "Oh, these guys are just fighting. They're also fighting the same thing, just like we had the what is it called? This Niger Delta militant. You could imagine the kind of mentality they have, and this is why our president could imagine to go and pay some bandit not to bomb these aircraft. In fact, it's not that they don't know where these guys are located. I'm very sure some people will still come here and defend and say, "Oh, this article is lying. Why did they say this in this line? Why did they say this in that line?" We've seen, like, I just don't know. Is it that some people just like to give their fellow Nigerians emotional blackmail? You just see the truth and you just refuse to accept that this is what is going on. In as much as I don't want to go to, I don't want to talk about David's article. It's the same thing, in fact. You see the truth, but you refuse to attack what the messenger is saying, what the main message is passing out. But you want to attack the fact that the person is speaking out that truth. Like, why are you speaking? That's the point. In Nigeria, why are you speaking out? Why are you saying the truth? Why are you saying the truth? Because they want you to lie. They want you to say something that, okay, oh, the government is doing perfectly okay. This is what they want to hear, in fact. They will never tackle the problem. I don't see this changing anytime soon, in fact. I don't see this changing anytime soon. You've seen this guy that just died, this former CBN governor, comes out to say, instead of, I don't know if we have DORA Secret Service or we have the Department Secret Service. I don't know the job of the DSS. You could imagine, I hate using the Western word to complain, but we just have to. You could imagine FBI, like US having the same issues we have now, and FBI have the opportunity to interrogate someone. And I say, oh, you know what, let's not interrogate this person. Maybe this person, I don't understand what our DSS is doing any longer. Once you say the truth, you're in problem. But once you aid the government, you are free. Someone like what is them? Gumi could walk freely, knowing fully well that this guy once said that we should give amnesty to the bandits. What is amnesty to the bandits? And the funny thing is, you see all these bandit guys, you will never see them with any good look, with all the money they've collected. So what are they using that money for? In fact, I use my mind here. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
All right, thank you, Captain G. Njenje, go on. Then we'll go to Olami. Olami had a question for Prof, but Njenje, quickly make your submission, then Olami can direct this question to Prof. Then we'll go to
I hope I'm fair enough. I'm going to quickly react to the topic then.
Yeah,
to
go on.
respond to something Prof said.
Go on.
Okay, thank you. 2021 is fine, a few months. So 2023 isn't far than that. But many of these things will happen before we get to the day we're going to do. So, and if we get a certain president, guys sit here for 8 years, all he will do is just manage to do anything. He won't be able to do much. Because if you go too far, some people might get angry and fund another insurgency like they did with the previous government in 2015 issue that we had. So, all well and good. And by the time they say 32, we'll be here then, because at that period we need to follow somebody for the north, then everybody will remember that, okay, maybe there's a problem. But anyway, that's beside the point. Now, to something Prof said about social engineering, I think the issue is not that we cannot socially engineer a concept. It's on the terms and the period it takes to do that. Social engineering cannot be done in a year or a decade. It takes centuries to do, sometimes millennia, before you engineer a culture that cannot be dissolved. Because in the history of this world, we have empire that span generations. We have Roman Empire, and in current reality, recent history, we have the British Empire. But when these empires fell, everybody that was close to the empire remembered who they are and went back to their culture and their identity, which shows you that we cannot erase an identity. In the American empire today, the American states that we all love so much, people's identity are still sacrosanct to who they are, beyond the American that they share. And that identity, that mixture is causing a problem in that society. Because all good things are good, yes, but things are good to the point. There's a point where that diversity and multiculturalism becomes a problem. And America is in that tipping point where you cannot keep mixing the pot. There has to be a limit to that mixture of the pot. There has to be a limit to that mixture of the pot. And before we forget, the engineering of the American city is built on the deaths of the indigenous people. It's built on their land, where the people exploit the land of the indigenous people. People were able to build this country on the exploitation of slaves and the natives from South America that were conquered by other Europeans. And then they shipped other Europeans to that nation. That's how they're able to build and engineer a society in that country that we want to copy so much. And we need to also understand that these people engineered the society in America, in Canada, in Australia. They engineered societies in Mexico, in Brazil, in Ecuador, in Argentina. In all of these places they conquered. But the societies they engineered on their continent, where Europeans are indigenous to, they did not copy that model. And there's a reason for that. Because they're indigenous to their own country. And when they wanted to build a model, they did not copy the model they created in the colonies they conquered and settled on. It's not because they are mad or stupid. There is a fundamental reason for that. That's where when we treat ourselves like conquered territories, it's something that saddens me a lot because we are not conquered territories. We need to understand that we are indigenous people. And there's a difference between being indigenous to a land and being a settler on a land. And if you keep copying settler colonies, we've seen the plight of people that are indigenous to that land today. Is that what we wish for ourselves? Because America was not built on niceties. We need to understand this. This social engineering we require for a new culture will not be built on niceties. Cases such as this topic we are dealing with right now is what will happen, keep happening. All the clashes and battles between cultures that are happening is what is required to build that society we hope for, that beautiful engineered culture. Because erasure must happen, assimilation must happen, reduction must happen. It's a must. It will not be built on niceties on a platter of gold. Some people must give something of compromises are needed. And compromise only works if it's both ways. But once it's only one set of people compromising themselves, it's exploitation. That's why we have Njenje Tower today, and we have Zamfara Gold. One is exploited by all of us. One is only left for the people that want it. Exploitation. Compromise only works if it's both ways. If it's not both ways, it's exploitation of yourself. That you just keep offering. Question. Even the question we need to ask ourselves is a little that reality we start asking ourselves the real questions and finding the correct solutions to our problem. But as long as we refuse to accept that reality of what Nigeria is, and that reality is not going to run away, it will still be there 2 decades from now, 5 decades from now, until the day we accept it and react accordingly. So until the day we accept that reality, then we just keep dying and suffering on the hope of maybe Nigeria better tomorrow. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Njenje. Allow me, please ask your question. Brian, hold on a bit. Let Olami ask his question. He has a question for Prof. Prof, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Alagba Abi. Prof, while you were making your comments, I picked up something which I want you to expatiate on for us very well. So you said that it has to do with the you I don't agree with that word, so I won't mention it. I don't want to mention the word because I believe there's a difference between self-determination and secession. And while you were making that comment as regards to people that are seeking a secession, which was the word you used, I quickly Googled self-determination and secession, and I found out that there's something interesting that I found out. So it says secession, the action of withdrawing formally from membership of a federation or body, especially a political state. Then I went to self-determination, and it says the process. People, I want us to listen to this carefully, and I want Prof to help us explain this better. It says the process by which a country determines its own statehood and forms its own allegiances and government. The changes cannot be made until a country's right to self-determination is recognized. So, Prof, with your wealth of knowledge, sir, I want you to help us clarify, is secession the same thing as a fundamental human right of self-determination? Because I am proud to say I'm a self-determination person, but I'm not a secessionist. Thank you. Quickly also,
well, yeah, okay.
Okay, you can go on that.
All right. I was going to say, by the way, that I am also a self-determination person. So I am not on a different page, just trying to put context and give essence to conversation. Let me just make a point about how far down we can go in trying to determine the purity of nationhood if what matters is nationhood. And I think a couple of you here make reference of a big brouhahas that I've seen in the statehood differences of people in Nigeria is one that Igbo people against the Yoruba people, for example. When I've often tried to raise the question, how many people really know that the Yorubas and the Igbos are cousins? To a number of meetings I had the privilege of hosting on Yoruba Igbo handshake across the Niger and stuff like that. And one of them under the Yiba involved a meeting that was initiated by Reverend Thompson, and I had the privilege of hosting here in my home at least two or three times, I think. And there are major leaders from Igbo land and major Yoruba ethnic nationality groups. And Reverend Thompson, in showing how this pitching of identity can be, talks about saying to one of his Yoruba friends, look, shouldn't we this Igbo Yoruba thing talk about, and I would, Igbo, what you, Igbo. So he said he kept quiet for a while and talked about other things. And I said, by the way, how's your wife? He said, Ngozi is very well. Okay, so it shows how passionate the thing can get pitched sometimes, even for a fellow who's married to somebody from the other side. But I then go back to, I mean, this is a pure historic work. I mean, some of the best writings on human history and evolution for me, Jared Diamond's in the books Gems, Guns, and Steel and Collapse. You know how civilizations have failed through human history. Jared Diamond makes a number of profound points about how nations or peoples have evolved. And when it comes to West Africa, or Africa, the cradle of the movement, West-East movement, who were once exactly the same people until some of them moved further east. And as man developed, got more sophisticated, the new words that they began to use now differed. But if you go to the base of the earliest things that they used to refer to, they were similar in the languages. And you see how that comes out to the base things in human description, body parts, the farm and stuff like that in Igbo and Yoruba. They're all exactly the same words or similar, like iti and nti for ear, enu and onu, you know, for mouth, Igbo, Ubo, you know. How far identity purity? I just thought I should leave that on the table, because if we travel back far enough, the Yorubas and Igbos should know that they are cousins, and therefore perhaps a Yoruba Igbo nation might be the basis of the kind of self-determination conversation we should have. But coming to self-determination, again, I like to talk often about the meaning of self-determination. I'm sure if I use secession, I be a slip of tongue, because I don't like the language myself. I like to talk a lot about self-determination. That's what I was probably trying to allude to in the way the Americans thought far in the framing of their constitution. If you look at the word genocide, genocide is a new word, entered our lexicon only in the last century when researchers were looking at what happened to Albanians and the things that happened around World War I in Turkey, and described the phenomenon of genocide. The history of nations and, well, the boundaries of what people can do outside of or within nations came out of the evolution of Europe, Western Europe, and the men closely. They are not really religious at all. Of who were Catholic supported some princes, the German princes who purported to lead the. And as most of us will recall, when in 1618 in Prague, emissaries of the German princes, Holy Roman Emperor, were thrown out of the window, often referred to as the defenestration of Prague. A 30-year war started and ended eventually with what is called the Peace of Westphalia. This Peace of Westphalia that introduced all these non-interference in the affairs of nations and all of the things, excuses we've used. But since the genocides of the 20th century, which include, of course, the Armenian one and the Holocaust of the Jews, and something we run away from, perhaps the second biggest of the 20th century, the Nigerian Civil War, has been part of the evolution of the thinking about a doctrine of self-determination. That doctrine of self-determination entered the thinking of global powers with the fundamental declaration of human rights at the United Nations after World War II, and has been evolving as a concept. In fact, I give example. I once stopped by in Washington to visit Professor George Obiozo when he was Nigeria's ambassador there. And George said to me, "Hey, look, I just came in from New York." And one of my colleagues just jokingly said to me, "George, you know, if the Nigerian Civil War had taken place today, there wouldn't be a Nigeria because the world would have backed Biafra." But the doctrine of self-determination, even though it was evolving from 1947, 48, it had not reached where it has reached today, which is why, of course, the Americans typically ceding the politics of Africa in those days to the British basically went along, and the Nigerian Civil War was fought in the way it was fought and came to an end. So my real point isn't to distinguish secession from self-determination. I am fully vested in the idea of the self-determination of peoples. All that I try to call attention to, if we are people who trust in our ability to ensure that every side, through political leadership, can realize that with an effort to build be further elevated on the world stage. I'm a liberal, and so pardon my ability to hope for such things. But if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I fully respect self-determination thinking. I do not think that it is something that anybody should hold unacceptable. But I just live in the hope that somehow we can have a great big black power. And that's it.
All right, thank you very much, Prof. We'll take two people so that Prof gets a bit of a break. So we'll take Brian, we'll take Good, Then we'll take a woman and Lukunle who have questions for Prof. Mr. Ide, I see you. We'll come back to you very soon. Brian, please go on. Then Good will go after that. Then we'll take Olukunle and a woman for their questions. Brian, go on.
Yes, hello everybody. I think I decided to speak actually when I was listening to Njenje and Captain G. I think most especially Captain G. I think he said something about the DSS, and so it just got me thinking that I think some of us generally have, some of us mentally haven't evolved to the stage where we find the state culpable in some of these dysfunctional actions that we're seeing. I'll speak for myself. I have gotten to the stage, some years ago, to this extent that I don't really need any more evidence to prove to me that the state and its apparatus are part of the terrorism we see in Nigeria. I'll give you an example. When a minister is about to be appointed, they tell us that a person goes through a security check. So I was wondering, what security check did Pantami go through? I mean, let's think about it. So, and when you listen to what I think is Commodore, I think so, or Lakunle said, you can see that this, you could tell that, the documents are there, the security reports are there about the people, around the, government, right? So what that tells me is that it tells me a couple of things, right? One is that even if our security services is effective, right? Which I don't think it is, but even if it were an effective organization, that the way Nigeria is, our institutions are so fluid that someone else outside that institution could say, don't do anything about this, don't do anything about this, just pass this guy. Because I see no reason why someone like Pantami should have passed the security check. Okay? Now, when you watch what happens in other countries and watch what happens in Nigeria, say, for example, people go through screening, like in the House of Assembly, you can clearly see that nothing really thorough is happening. Okay? So that's why I wanted to speak about that. Our system has imploded. So anybody still thinking about Nigeria in the sense of, a strong nation is probably being, you're probably in denial. I'll give you an example. What has become of the attack at the Nigerian Defense Academy? What really has become of that? So, guys, I'm Igbo, right? And I often crack these jokes. So I went to university in the Southwest. So most of the people in my chat, in my group, are Yoruba. So I always, like, when things of this nature happen, I always say, imagine this happening in the Southeast. So today, when this story broke out, I just posted, imagine if this had happened in the Southeast, that some group of bandits, kidnapper, or non-gunmen, whoever, had access to an anti-aircraft, weaponry. You can imagine the Air Force would have bombarded the whole area, the whole Southeast, just to make a point. Imagine if the guys who went in, if the Nigerian Defense Academy was in the Southeast, imagine what would have happened. So for me, when we're having these discussions, I don't see Nigeria as a country. I see Nigeria like a failed entity, compromised entity. My apologies, Prof, but that's the reality. You obviously speak with these people, and basically you have to watch what you say. But I'm nobody. I have to say how it is, right? Why are we deceiving ourselves? There's so much evidence before us that the system has failed, the country has failed. So, in regards to the story about giving money to to retrieve back an anti-aircraft, say something, because 1%. Let me make. I'll yield the mic pretty soon. 1% of what is happening in Nigeria now, with regards to the compromises and the flaws within our security system, 1% of those things, they were happening in a normal country, the authorities would have been, brought before all sorts of authorities to make sure they give account. But nothing of this nature is happening, and it's because of the Fulani people who are the helm of affairs. Because if this was a Southerner, right, we all saw what happened when Ihejika was the head of the military. We all heard what was happening. We all heard the reaction of people like Buhari. I just yield the mic because, when we discuss about these things, I just feel that we are not, I don't know where other people are mentally with what's going on, but I've gotten to a stage where I look at Nigeria as a non-entity. It's not a country. It's failed, because some of the things happening are just bewildering. I yield the mic.
All right, thanks. Let's quickly have Mr. Day. I think he needs to run into church now. Then we'll take Olukunle. No, we'll take Good. Then we'll take Olukunle and Ewoma. Let's quickly have Mr. Day. Adego.
Hello, yes, hi, good morning. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to Mr. Professor Paditomi. Professor, thanks for coming to speak with us. It's always a pleasure to listen to be able to sit at the feet of an elder and hear some of your wisdom. The last time you were here, you spoke about how you helped to form APC, which you remain a card-carrying member, although you did distinguish that you are now a member of the righteous APC, which I would appreciate. So in the course of your speech, you mentioned that you worked hard to form the APC. You worked in, you campaigned, and ultimately, some individuals were selected, as it were, or they were allotted votes. I'm paraphrasing, of course. And so, to me, that kind of felt very, very. It was a bit sobering to hear that, because we've often heard complaints about how the electoral process in Nigeria is fraught with fraud. And in terms of self-determination, there are basically two different, there's a dichotomy of approach or methodology. Some would say that we should join the system, form a party, and organize ourselves. And others say we should just boycott the system, withdraw from the elections, and basically basically, by doing so, we make a statement that we delegitimize the system because participation gives it life. Of course, the caveat is that if you do that, then somebody will ultimately control the government. Nevertheless, the pressure will still be there. My concern is this. I think that you cannot swim through a swamp and come out clean on the other side. So if we look at the Nigerian government as a cesspool or a swamp of corruption, I do not think it is possible to walk through that system and remain clean and be effective. It's either you're going to get dirty with the system and become neutralized, or you're going to remain clean and not be effective in changing the system. So, having set the premise, my question to you, sir, is this: what do you think the best is? What advice can you offer to us with regards to going about the self-determination, given that we have a swamp of a government and it is difficult to walk through it and be effective while still being clean? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I mean, it can sound very logical to say that the only option if there is a swamp is to leave the swamp until it gets drained. But how does it get drained? I don't see the alternative. Maybe an option is to play Kagame and move in and get them out. But I don't see many of you raising an army like Paul Kagame did. And so it is possible that we can be caught in intellectual masturbation and keep at it and keep at it, and it just goes, and they even get bolder and do even worse things because they know that all we can do or you can do is just engage and talk to each other and get upset. And really they've long lost a sense of shame, so they don't care what you say, or you can say maybe some formula is possible. And I like very often to talk about Ibrahim Shekarau and that formula. I see in the papers this morning that he had a parallel Congress in Kano. But the Shekarau story that I like to tell is of how Shekarau, as a civil servant, saw this governor that was, just running roughshod over everything and would not take any advice from the public service. And when he tried to say this is not the way we do it, he was demoted and basically sent back to his parent ministry and the classroom where he used to be a teacher also, and people urged him to run against that governor. And he said, who am I? I don't have any resources. How can I? And people said, who says it's about resources, about organization? And he fought it for a while until Matema Sule said to him, I hear you are that coward who people are asking to run, and then he got buoyed by that comment. And the youth of Kanu showed up. Everybody, including the opposition party that he joined, everybody that was powerful in the system, including Buhari, who was the leader of ANPP at the time, more or less, did not want him, and the people, the youth of Kanu, said to him, go on. And he went through the primary process, defeated everybody. In Guzo, at the convention of the ANPP, Buhari did not want to give him the flag. He was so irritated by the fact that Shekarau got the nomination. But the youth surrounded that stadium. And Yerima, who was governor, felt threatened enough by the noise of the youth that he grabbed the flag and gave Shekarau the flag. That's how Shekarau became candidate. And he can't win the election. Kwankwaso was incumbent governor, said something very derogatory about is this the competition I will have? And the youth gathered. When the so-called INEC materials were arriving, they were at the airport. They followed the convoy on the trucks to CBN. They didn't leave CBN until the things were sent to the polling stations. The police manned everything. He beat Kwankwaso by 400,000 votes and followed the next stage. General Obasanjo did not want him announced he was president as a victor. Even his own party were sort of like, okay, well, he has won, but what shall, yeah, but the youth insisted. And when people saw, security people told Obasanjo, if we don't announce this man as having won this election, Kano will be on fire. And he was announced as governor of Kano. So I think that sometimes thinking of something is probably better than a purity stand that comes to nothing. But I don't know. I don't have the answers to everything. I just have a perspective as another human being. There might be better views on the other side, and that's fine. I respect that. But this is how I think, and this is what I hope can happen. I yield.
All right, thank you very much, Prof. So we'll go back to Good. Is Good still here? Good, please go on. Then we'll take Odukunle and Ewoma's question. Good, go on.
All right, thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody listening. I think Ali's submission sort of forced Prof to answer the question I had. And the rebuttal I would sort of give as a question is, Prof, thank you so much for your time and everything you've been doing. But as a member of the righteous side of the APC party, how long do you think this intellectual masturbation, like you've called it, how long do you think it would or should continue before the other side would sort of want to also participate in this? Because we would love that this happens and the dialogue would eventually yield something positive. And while we are on it, everyone here is aware of what we would have to forego and sort of deal with, because it seems so far that it is the only peaceful way to go about the entire situation, to continue to have dialogues and conversations and hope and pray that people would join us in that dialogue and eventually things would happen. So to just keep the question concise, I would leave it there and hope for an answer from you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I made the point that these fellows have long lost a sense of shame. You can scream at them forever. You see, Nigeria has become fundamentally anti-intellectual. That's what the political class has done to Nigeria. Thinking has left the room. They can just dismiss everything that you say on this and all other platforms as, don't mind those frustrated people, and grandma will go chop. And they can keep it forever. Let's be honest. The way that these guys are constituted, I know them, I've been with them, I've been told, you didn't engage, I engaged. I saw the outcome of engaging. I know them, quite frankly. And I know that they can ignore you forever if they have to. And they just look at short-term interests. Unfortunately for everybody, however, there's only one direction things will go, the road to Somalia. And this is what Kaplan actually suggested in the Coming Anarchy. Eventually, every village will become come under the control of a warlord. We heard earlier in this conversation about how much weaponry is circulating around some parts of this country. Any criminal that has enough guts can start his own army or her own army, and they will control patches of territory. And that's where we're going, unless something more dramatic happens. But if you expect that they will come to dialogue and sit across to start talking with you. I'm afraid that your expectations are sort of slightly exaggerated because it can go on forever. That's sad, but that seems to be what we are facing. Okay. By the way, I have to go off in the next 5 minutes or so. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Prof. Thanks. Let's quickly take Woma and Obikunle, please. One question each, and then Prof can go. Then we can maybe continue the room. Woma, go first.
Harvey, can I get a question in? Is it possible?
Okay, I'll stand for one more question, or maybe we can take them together, and I can just respond.
Yeah, if you can. So, Tony, please, if you
Thank you.
Just one line, please. Tony,
you want me to go first? Okay, great.
Yeah.
One line question. So, Prof, you just said they don't respond to intellectual engagement. Given that you've had some experience with them, what do you think is another way to engage them? Or what do you think they will be a way to sort of get them across the board?
Okay.
Ewuma, are you there?
Yes,
okay, if I will. Okay, go on, please. One line question.
Man, I don't know how to put this. Prof, good afternoon. Glad you're here. I hope we can get you another time for something more in-depth and robust. My question is along the lines of restructuring. Now, why is it such a difficult conversation to have? And it appears that anytime it comes up, it's like an attack against a certain region. I don't know Aminu Kanos of the world in today's Nigeria that can latch onto such an ideology and push for it, because it's almost like we never see anything in that direction from the region. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is Olukunle there?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, please.
Okay. So, Prof, my question is as regards 2023 elections, because as it is now, let me just ask, like, do you think getting someone that really just of the people, I mean, when it comes to the people asking for self-determination, or do you think if this person even gets into power, the system would probably, even if the person is willing, the system would make the person not do all these things, or will the elections be as useless as usual?
Okay. Very quickly, let me see how I can respond. The first one is about one way that can work, given I'll give you more than one way. One way, for example, is one I've already mentioned. It might not be the easiest, but it is a way. I mentioned the Paul Kagame option. How many of you are willing to live where you are in North America and Europe, like Paul did, and come back and lead an army? I mean, you can sweep these guys out in a few months, quite frankly, but how many of you are willing to do that? So that's one option, but from what I see,
it's not the Paul Kagame option under the table for now.
That's why I said, okay. Now, the other option is organizing. This is about organizing. I mean, let's be frank. These are a couple of fellows. The electoral process may be flawed, but that's why I keep talking about the Shakarawa example. Look, the young people of this country constitute more than 60-70% of the voting population. I mean, people like me at 65 are dinosaurs. Look, we constitute less than, I don't know how many percentage, 2% of the population. We're dying. And many of the people who are doing this thing are in their 80s and 70s. And there are just a few of them. If we really honestly want to change our country, and we have this incredible technology before us that the Aminu Kanus did not have, we can enlighten a significant mass, bring them to a certain consciousness, and out-organize these people. Forget all this. And that's the model I hope to be part of playing out. This is my last effort. I mean, I look at myself as a student in the 70s, out there demonstrating every day I could against the military. I look at myself as an executive in industry in the 90s, out there on the streets demonstrating against the annulment of the elections. And people say, are you crazy? People who are chief executives don't do what you're doing. And I said, look, this is my country. I look at myself. I mean, I look and I say, okay, I've run 40 years. My PhD thesis will be 40 in the next few weeks. And I ask myself, after all this struggle, what has it been about? What have I accomplished? And I realized that whatever it is I can do in the next 2-3 years will be my last foray. And then I will go off to go and die quietly somewhere, hopefully, if I survive this next 3 or 4 years. And I wonder why people whose future is all out there can't just put out time to organize themselves and use technology available and basically do what Shekarau did in Kano. It is easy. But people are not doing the work. Instead, they're speaking English. That's the option that I think is very obvious and is not being engaged as much as should be. Then there is a Olakule's question about 2023, which is more or less exactly what I was responding to there. And I think there was also the question before that on what will happen or what can happen. Well, very frankly, part of the reason that these people will not back off their track is that we have built a generation of rent champions, people who have lived a good life from producing nothing, just having access to power, and they can extract economic rent, buy houses in London, all the places they buy. I mean, you have heard of one person's collection of jewelry, just one person's collection of jewelry. It comes to the budget of some African countries. Just one person, because they were near power for a very short period of time. So you can guess the consequence of state capture for these fellows. Everything they own, they owe to being near power. That's why some of them just never want to go away. Because 2 hours outside of power, first of all, they become irrelevant. I tell stories all the time about, how growing up in this country, I thought some people invented certain sectors until they were removed from office. And within 1 year, nobody ever heard anything about them. If there's any contribution I like to think that I have made, it is that I have been away from public office since 1983, when I had only a couple of months stint, by the way. And I have somehow managed to be relevant, whatever that means. Somebody said that to me, and I was struck by the fact that it occurred to that person as something. But most people in Nigeria are completely irrelevant outside of a position of public authority. And so just that fact of being of no consequence is enough dread for them. Then the fact that the resources they live off of, they've built these expansive lifestyles, and it comes from taking from the treasury. And you see them after a couple of years of being in power, whatever it is they think they've accumulated, it's just disappeared because they can't sustain it. They don't have that treasury to take from, and they are giving away so much. And so they will do anything unless they are forced out or through this kind of system that delegitimizes them and brings in a new set of people. I think, quite frankly, your job is cut out for you. all of us, because we must take our country back. Whether we take it back as Biafra, Ududua Republic, Zamfara Republic, whatever it is, take your country back is important. You, I look back to the 70s and 80s. I don't know what space I was on yesterday, and I told these stories. Yeah, it was live radio, actually. The kind of excitement as young people. As an 18-year-old, I thought I had the right to determine how Nigeria moved. I told the story yesterday on radio of how I remembered my 18th birthday. I told the story on the streets demonstrating, literally. But we saw something in a country we wanted built. I think that today, if we can craft a dream, whatever that dream is, if you are a self-determination person and it's your village that is the republic, whatever it is, have a clear dream and do something to make that dream come true. I don't think that it's enough to just blame everybody. I can't blame everybody, but most of my life I've chosen to do something about it rather than blame anybody. Have I done well at it? Who knows? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe history will judge better. But just do something. Final word on this. When Atiku Abubakar was vice president under Obasanjo, he came to Lagos just a day or two before the kind of retreat they just had, the presidential team. And he met a group of us, I think the old concerned professionals types, business leaders, very political and stuff. So I think, I don't remember who invited him to meet with us. And we left, we said to him, look, whatever it is you guys want to do, just do it. The mimic of the Nike ad, just do it. And he went back into the retreat in Abuja and said, Mr. President, gentlemen, I was told in Lagos yesterday, just do it. And that's all I will leave you with. Just do it. It's not enough to talk. So I thank you all for the privilege and the time of being in your company.
All right, Prof. Thank you very much for that and for your submissions. Even though someone did send in a last question about, have you gotten to a point where you think the Nigerian experiment has totally failed? If you have, or if you haven't, at what point would you
consider it totally failed?
Consider it totally failed, or what do you need to see as a person? And I think we can wrap it up there.
Okay,
I think we've lost him there, quite sadly. Okay. Who was supposed to go next? Yeah, okay. I think it was Machala, then Tony. If Machala is there, please go. Then Tony, you can go afterwards. Okay, Machala, please go on. Then Tony can go after till Pat finds himself.
Thank you for having me. It's nice to to have Prof in the building and to listen to him speak. A lot of us have listened to Prof. We followed his life and a lot of the things he has said. I'm just I'm sad that he went off, and time is a resource. We can't afford to just hold down his time for that long. But he said a lot of things that resonate with a lot of us. And there are points we will agree with, there are points we won't agree with. And I just believe, and I'm glad that he narrated the story of Malam, Ibrahim Shekarau, how the man goes up to become the governor. And he's still a very relevant figure in Nigerian politics up until now. And this is where the people who have listened to me speak, this is where my own optimism comes from. And when, a lot of myriad of problems are happening in Nigeria and a lot of people want to give up. Yeah, it's it's enough for you to just throw your hands in the air and give up. But stories like Malam, stories like a lot of other people we have seen who rose up from nothing, challenged the system, and then they, with the will of the people, the support of the people, they found their way. So it confirms to me that these people that we see as the giants, the heavyweights, they are going to kill you, they will block you, the system is rigged, it's corrupt. There are people, you will find one or two individuals who are able to navigate that same system, that same space, and then rise up to become who they become in that country today. So I really do not believe in the power in impossibility, because even in the word impossible, you still find possible. So if that were to be untrue, a lot of the things we see that we are quite unhappy with wouldn't have even happened in the first place. So the dream is valid for those who believe in, taking their country back. Like Prof said, I believe, and I've always said this time and time again, no America is coming to save that Nigeria as a country. No UK is coming to save anybody. No, it is not in their interest to do so, because from inception, it was never about the people. And for those of us who are the people of the country, this is where our fight must get into that fight and say, this is about us as the people, not about your business, not about you getting rent, not about you getting paid. And we one of my grounds that I've noticed and I have highlighted as a problem in Nigeria is that our leaders are completely removed away from the people. There is this distance. I don't know who created that distance, where the leaders will come to you and tell you, I feel your pain. I am drinking Milo and Bonvita with you, like some of the pictures we have seen. But meanwhile, it is just all a show. These are people who are not living your reality. They are completely removed away from the reality of their own people. So these people would never provide a solution to you that will fix the problem. That is the reason why police brutality on the street will not mean anything, and nobody will do anything about it, because it's not a reality that they themselves, their own children, or any other person will go through in life. So it is now left for us as the people to realize that, okay, this is the issue and we need to do something about it. And I think the other days, for those who have listened to me speak before, I have always said it and time again, the only thing that a politician would fear is for them to lose election. And in some of the things that Prof said in closing, it also confirms it to me as the truth, because the moment when these people are out of office, their life is finished. And that is the reason why you see them fight tooth and nail, make certain laws, make certain pronouncements, make certain rules, do anything that they can, including whatever despicable things that you think that you can think of on the planet. These people are ready to do it to keep themselves in position of power. And that is where we as young people must decide for ourselves. Prof mentioned the class of citizens. How old were all of those guys that have all become the old men that we are all terrified, we are all worried about now? How old were they when they were taking charge of their country? Nobody sent them a memo or gave them approval. They didn't even need the approval of anybody. They just woke up, organized themselves into a group, and then they moved the way they moved. And here we are today. They've made certain, they've created a country that, it has become the way it is now, and we are all dissatisfied, we are all unhappy about it. Then it is now left for us as a group of people to put ourselves together, to put our acts together, to pull our resources together. Because then again, one of the major issues I have is, after all this talk and talk now, tell people to start putting their resources together and organizing. You find out that everybody just disappears. But I believe, and I still have faith, because we've seen what the young people in this country are able to do. We've seen the organizing that people have been able to do in certain spaces, and they've been able to move. So I still have faith, and that is the reason why I'm not completely giving up. Like Prof has said, we shouldn't give up on our country. We should take it back. The fear-mongering, the scare tactics, and all of those things. If you focus on those things, we would never achieve anything. Nobody should threaten you, they are going to lock you up. It is not today people get locked up. But if you believe in an ideology, if you believe that it is about the people, it is for future generation. You don't want a country where you run away, your children too will run away. If that is not what we are looking for, then we must take charge. So I'm looking forward to the next time we're going to have people like Prof. Ave, I want to commend you. I want to give you a shout out for bringing Prof and every other person who is doing this thing. We need to be able to engage, especially the Southern elites. I have a big issue with them, but that will be a discussion for another day. I want to know what that Southern agenda is collectively, because either you like it or not. And I'm glad, I think that Prof is coming, because that was the question I wanted to ask him. A Southerner is going to be president in 2023. Buhari is done. Just forget him. He can pay 50,000 naira to Vita. He can pay $50,000 to whoever he likes. That is not even my problem. My problem is that a Southerner will become president. Either he's an Igbo man or a Yoruba man. A Southerner will become president in 2023. What is that guy going to do for us? What is his agenda? What is our plan when power finally shifts to the South? That is the big question that the Southern political class need to tell us, because we want to hear them, we want to listen to them speak, and we need to know what these guys want to do. If they are removed and they are protected, they are shielded away from us, these guys will get into power in 2023. They will do another 8 years and it will be a waste. So that is not what I want to see. So I just hope we'll get another chance and another opportunity. Let's bring more of them, more of people like Prof and all of them. Let these guys come speak to us. Let us know what these guys want to do. And let's see if we align with them. Let them hear from us. Let them get feedback from us. Let them know what we need from them. So that is how I think things will work. Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you very much, Machala. I'll send a message to Prof. We'll sort of work out something and see, and we will see an appropriate time that would be good for both of us and for everyone, really. So I'll schedule it. Yeah, and on that note, actually, for people who are following the club already, when I schedule the room, you should be able to find it. If you're not following already, this is a good time to do that. Just go to the top of the page, click on the greenhouse logo that is there, or greenhouse icon. That way you follow and you get to know when we schedule the room with Prof to sort of discuss some of these other things. This morning we've been talking about the news from Wall Street Journal, actually, that sort of said that the Buhari government paid bandits $50,000 to buy back a weapon that the bandits got from the army. So, I mean, as crazy as it sounds, what actually happened was apparently the bandits engaged the Nigerian army in some sort of a battle, and they got this weapon from the Nigerian army. Now, the weapon, according to the news, has a capacity to shoot down the president's plane while in the air. And then the Nigerian army got the intelligence of that. And interestingly, so the Nigerian army got intelligence that there's this weapon with these people in this particular location. And somehow, rather than maybe get the weapon back or attack those people, they just went to pay for the weapon and just buy it back, right? So that's what we've been sort of talking about, how outrageously ridiculous that sounds, and how really scary that is, that you now have a country where the president will literally just go pay a group of people in exchange for a weapon that has potential to shoot down the president's plane. That's where we are right now, and that's what we've been sort of talking about before Professor Patutomi joined the room, and it's been very insightful engaging him on this issue and on other issues, essentially. If you're in the audience and you'd like to speak, please come up. Feel free to. If you're on stage already, I think there's Njenje to go.
Alaba, my apologies. I actually forgot to even say anything to him. I just went on. Sorry.
No, it's fine. Yeah, if you're on stage and you'd like to speak as well, please flash your mic. This room should be ending soon. Don't forget to follow the club. That way you get to know when we have the next room where we can look at the broader 2023 agenda and all of that. So Njenje will go, then Ewoma can go after that. Njenje, go on.
Yeah, thanks, Harvey. Absolutely. I think all's been said, really. I just wanted to say, hope we'll encourage Prof to come back and continue what he said around, he said he wants to spend the rest of his time encouraging and helping to organize and mobilize this kind of movements. And that's where our, most of our efforts really will reap the best rewards. We spend a lot of time talking on this clubhouse, but nothing seems to be structured, effective enough. Nothing seems to be insightful enough. A lot of it seems to be speculative, grounded in a lot of our emotional feeling, but not organized enough to make any significant effect or influence. But yeah, I think this is one great opportunity to use Prof's insight and his I think Solomon was, and I were chatting in the back channel, his mentorship really to guide us in just understanding and organizing ourselves going forward, and organizing ourselves towards using the right processes to achieve the outputs that we want. We have seen in the past that we've been able to do that through the NSAS movement and the sort of organization that we had through there. I think, again, the next question then comes to the likes of Prof in regular conversations like this to ask, okay, what happens when the government decides to use its military prowess against your organization? Which was exactly kind of how the NSAS movement dissolved. What do you do then, and what options are available to you, and what sort of strategies do you need to be ready for, and what sort of people do you need to get on your side to be able to avoid that kind of things, or to mitigate it as much as possible, or to make the government actually rethink that this group of people agitating for this movement or supporting this particular political leader or party cannot just be shut down or cannot just be silenced by us, releasing a group of soldiers to shoot random stray bullets at them. So that's the kind of conversations that I kind of see going forward. And I just wanted to mention it'd be great to encourage Prof to come back to have this kind of conversations. On the other point regarding sort of paying bandits for the anti-aircraft weapon, you're right. Really, again, it's not much to say here. Again, I can go on like everyone else and lament about it for 2 hours, but there's just one or two things that are striking to me. One is many times governments need to make tough decisions, which sometimes include paying ransom to unpalatable figures. But it seems that our government does it all the time. We paid for the Chibok girls. We paid for some other people who have been kidnapped by these bandits. The government actually paying. We've paid them again to avoid them shooting the president's what do we call the Air Force One as well? Is that what we call our presidential jet? But we are paying them to avoid them shooting our presidential jet in our own territory. It's absolutely, like you said, Harvey, it is scary and it is terrifying. Number one, it's terrifying that this information gets out. Number two, it is terrifying that we're paying so much in our own territory to regain any sense of control. And like Prof said when he was here, it's all kind of shows that it's the road to Somalia, where you will have warlords controlling different patches of land. And if the president cannot fly from Abuja to Katsina, I don't know how many miles is that in his own country, because there's a certain patch of land controlled by someone who he's scared will shoot an anti-aircraft gun to his presidential jet, then it is absolutely terrifying. And number two, we have seen, I think the David Hundeyin article that was released recently kind of showed that all these people were in cahoots with each other. And if they are in cahoots with each other, why is the president scared that his aircraft will be shot down? If he's friends with, whoever and co, and they've been shaking hands, you've all seen the pictures, you've all read the articles, you've discussed it and debated it with hours on end. But why is he then scared that these people he's been shaking hands with will shoot his aircraft down? That's the other sort of thing that strikes me here. And no answers, but it's kind of up for debate and interesting to discuss as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Tony. Yes, I've sent a message to Prof. We'll definitely have a follow-up to this one. And whenever that has been decided, I'll schedule the room and everyone can see it. Please do follow the club. That way you automatically get notified and you can put it in your diary or something. Also to say that as a club, because we do not think that we should just be talking about Nigeria's problems without at least trying to do something. So this December, we're trying to organize some sort of an outreach to 200 poor families in Lagos, and that's going to be for Christmas time, something like that. So we're trying to get volunteers and raise money and raise whatever it is that we can use to help these families. So if that is something that you're interested in to help out with, please send me a message in the back channel, or just look on the club list, top 20 or 30 names, send any of them a message. It will definitely get across We'll be glad if you can support us. Let's just try and put a smile on somebody, especially people who are based outside the country. This might be something that you can do. You never know whose family you help. The plan is to get a pack of basic food stuff, rice, curry, beans, just a simple pack that can at least give a family a memorable Christmas, at least on that day. That is what we're working on. But that's a side note. If that interests you, please kindly reach out to me, and we'll be grateful. Or reach out to anyone who is affiliated to the club. Okay, I think it was a woman that was about to speak, and we'll be wrapping up this room, if that's okay with everyone. Except there are other people who have anything to say, and if not, then that will be where we sort of draw the curtains on this current room. Woman, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, go.
Okay. Listening to Professor Patutomi speak, the most frightening thing that came out of his lips were, "Are we on the road to Somalia?" And I think this sort of segues me back into David Hundain's article. You see, it's difficult to have conversations on sensitive subjects like this when we fail to be contextual about where he was coming from. And David reiterated this on Twitter, on Clubhouse sessions. Like it's not what the main summary of his piece was not about the sponsorship of terrorism by this particular company, NASCO. He was drawing a line from the 70s up until now as regards the incursion of a different form of religion into Nigeria, and how that paved way. It's like the evolution of insurgency in Nigeria. And I think that was the point a lot of people failed to align with. It was always about picking points, this or that or. And see, you see, that's why Prof was there. I was asking, like, where are the Aminu Kanus of this world? We can't deny the fact that fundamentalism and political Islam has done a lot of damage to Nigeria up until now. In 2017, $1 billion was withdrawn to fight insurgency, but up until now, we've not seen any change. And I think a lot of people need to understand why. I consider myself a liberal centrist, but you need to understand where some people come from when it comes to secession. And that's because it's difficult for people to, see a line between religion and state in certain quarters. And how are people on the other side of the aisle? What can they do for people to see that delineation? They feel that it's like a Siamese twins and there's nothing that they can do about it. Now, are they gonna be people that are gonna rise up and be able to, have some kind of progressiveness so that people just don't cast everything to the wind and say, look, the only solution is for us to divide. Why is restructuring such a difficult conversation? All these things like lead to where people have reservations about people's intentions, because of the sensitivity of this. We are on a road to Somalia because insurgency has not reduced. It has grown in leaps and bounds. And it's like no matter how much money you pour into it, it's like it just keeps on increasing. It's like trying to pour water on a flame and instead it's fuel that you are pouring instead. And like this challenge today, like, paying money to bandits, to retrieve weapons. It just reinforces people's suspicion and exhaustion with the whole challenge, because these monies are still going to go back into procurement of weapons. And it's like, you're not seeing enough progressive voices from the region coming out and speaking against it. Yes, I mean, a couple of people have highlighted how people in the past were killed, but how much further do you expect this to go, such that the conflagration doesn't consume the whole of the nation? Yes, there are macro and micro challenges. I'm from Delta State. There are challenges that are peculiar to my state, but you don't see those challenges going, be a growing fire affecting the whole nation. But this insurgency is a challenge that is now a micro challenge affecting the whole nation. So where do we go from here? And lastly, the one thing I'll pick from what Prof talked about, I actually wrote it down, enlightening, like using like these mediums, social media and the rest, enlightening a critical mass to spur consciousness using technology. And I'll say that, look, I will not even go the Shekaro option. Controversial as he may be, I will look at someone like Nnamdi Kanu. Nnamdi Kanu was consistent in leveraging new media to spur consciousness for a critical mass. Yes, he was extreme in a lot of ways, but I think leave him and his controversial views. Let's look at the medium through which he used to push forward his message and ideology. I think that's something that young people like us here that are, centrists, that are liberal-minded, can leverage. We know we have abysmal press freedom when it comes to Nigeria, and he was able to circumvent that using new media. Are there messages that we can put out there to mobilize a critical mass and put in consciousness? Can they have education about governance systems in pidgin English translated to their languages? I think these are the methods and ways through which people like us here can be able to mobilize a critical mass and spur consciousness in them for them to take the right decisions or align with decisions that align with their interests, such that we can, in quotes, take back this country. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay. I think Prof is back. Prof. Hello.
All right, I got some power back just to finish my my closing remark. The question that I was trying to respond to was about what future do I see? Is this non-dimitis? Is this a total final failure? I'd like to preface everything with a remark. I mean, in a way of seeing my Weltanschauung, as the Germans will say, is significantly shaped by a Christian background. And central to that is hope. I tend to always err on the fact that there always can be a better day. I give very frequently examples of basket cases that turned around. I'm not saying this will be that case, but if I don't hope, then I'm dead. And so I continue to hope in most things that I do. What I think, however, is important is that we must have that ideology of citizenship all of us. I think that a good part of the Nigerian problem is that, I mean, we have not become citizens. We significantly, many of us, unfortunately, have not left the base state. I'm sure all of you remember and are familiar with how the Greeks rank people in society. Many of us still just think of ourselves. I am one of those who believe that the self-interest is best advanced when it's embedded in the advance of the common good of all. Because when the common good moves up, then there'll be bigger scope for the self-interest to be actualized. So as somebody who, for example, reflects on economics, the whole Adam Smith idea of maximizing the self-interest, for me, is limited to seeing that self-interest within a common good. Otherwise, you will sometimes act against your own interest in assuming that you're advancing your interest. For me, 90% of Nigeria's problems are people who think that they are advancing their self-interest, whereas in reality, they're shooting themselves in the foot. I could tell a long story about this, but I can't do that now from a program I was at INSEAD about 30-something years ago, and somebody talking about Nigeria. So, but once we move past being, sorry, the expression the Greeks used, of course, was idiots, people who think only of themselves. Many of us then seem to get stuck at the level of tribesmen, those who, okay, see and trust only those that they share a certain affinity with, biological usually, and every out group is an enemy. So we're in a constant state of war. But where we should belong is the level of citizenship. Citizens who see a shared humanity in all people and believe that you can talk to the solution of any challenge. I think that faith that it is possible to get people to move up, and that, you know, it doesn't take the entire world to solve a problem. The famous Margaret Mead statement about how you should never put down the effort of a few committed individuals to change the world, because indeed it is the only thing that ever has. Throughout human history, it's been a few committed individuals who have changed the course of history. And so my life's journey has been a permanent search for the few, the committed, in the hope that somehow we can together change the world. I don't apologize about that. It's just my DNA. And I hope people can understand that this is how I see the world. So, thank you.
All right, thank you, Prof. So I just got your response. So we'll be able to have a follow-up next week, same time? Is that
yes,
correct?
Sure.
Okay, all right. Yeah, all right. Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome, and a wonderful day to everyone.
Yeah, thank you. I think Solomon has something to say.
I was just acknowledging. Sorry, thank you.
Oh, okay. Thanks. So, guys, thank you very much for this Sunday. It's been an interesting room. Thank you to the guys who stayed in the audience listening patiently. Thank you to the guys who came on stage to share their views, and a very big thanks to Prof for coming in and spending a few hours with us as well. We'll continue this next week, Sunday, around the same time. Please do follow the club, as I've said earlier on, so that you get to see the notifications when I schedule the room. We'll be able to continue from where we sort of left off. And hopefully we can have a bigger, more robust conversation at that time. I do wish everyone a marvelous Sunday.